Something in the woods pretended to be my friend. It was a cold afternoon when we decided to head out into the woods. The kind of cold that seeps into your jacket and makes you tuck your hands deep into your pockets, even though the trees were still thick with fading autumn leaves. My friend Daniel had been bugging me for weeks about going on a long hike before the first snow hit. He always loved the quiet of the forest, said it made him feel alive. I wasn't as excited. The forest outside our town had always carried a strange feeling with it. People said it stretched farther than it should have, that the trails never looked the same twice. But Daniel convinced me, like he always did, flashing that cocky grin and saying I needed to stop being such a shut-in. We left town around 3 in the afternoon, backpacks light, just water and snacks, no camping gear. It was supposed to be a quick trip in and out, nothing more. The first couple of hours were easy enough. We walked, joked, kicked at the leaves, and breathed in the damp smell of the soil. The sun filtered through the branches in golden rays, and for a moment, I thought maybe I had been paranoid. But the deeper we went, the quieter it became. The air changed. It wasn't just the absence of birds or the rustling of squirrels. It was heavier, like stepping into a church where you weren't supposed to be. I noticed Daniel stopped talking as much. He kept looking over his shoulder, as if checking for something, but when I asked what was wrong, he just shook his head and said, "Nothing, man. Just the woods messing with me." It happened when we reached a clearing. He said he had to take a leak and walk behind one of the thicker oaks. I stood waiting, scrolling on my phone, but there was no signal this deep out. I shoved it back into my pocket and sighed. Then Daniel came back. At least, I thought it was him. He walked out from behind the oak tree, smiling like nothing was wrong, zipping up his jacket. "All right, let's keep moving," he said. But something froze me in place. It wasn't his voice exactly. It was close, but off by just enough that my stomach twisted. It was like hearing a recording of someone you knew well, played through a cheap speaker. Slightly flat, slightly wrong. Yeah, I said, hesitating before falling into step beside him. We walked a few more minutes, but the feeling gnawed at me. His gait seemed weird. Too smooth, too even. Daniel always had a lazy limp in his right leg from a football injury years ago. This version of him didn't. I tried to brush it off. Maybe the cold was messing with my head. Maybe he was walking differently because the trail was smoother. But I couldn't shake it. And then my phone buzzed. I pulled it out, startled. No service. No internet. Just a single notification from my gallery app. It said, "One new photo saved." Confused, I opened it. The picture made my blood run cold. It was Daniel, the real Daniel, standing behind the tree he had disappeared behind. His eyes wide, mouth open like he was about to scream. And the timestamp? It was from less than a minute ago. I looked up from the phone, heart hammering, and saw Daniel walking just ahead of me, humming softly, the corners of his mouth stretched too far into a smile. My legs went stiff. I couldn't force myself to move, not right away. I just stared at the screen, my breath fogging in the air, waiting for the photo to somehow disappear or for another notification to pop up that would explain it. But nothing came. The single photo of Daniel, frozen in terror, sat on my phone like a warning. "Hey, you good back there?" The voice was Daniel's, but it wasn't. It didn't carry the same warmth, the same rhythm. It was like an actor who'd only listened to him speak a handful of times and thought they could fake it. Close, but not enough. I shoved the phone back into my pocket and forced a shaky laugh. Yeah, just checking something. The thing smiled at me, wide, too wide, and turned back to the trail. Every instinct screamed to run, but the woods were endless. And if this wasn't Daniel, then where was he? I couldn't just leave him behind. We kept walking. The silence stretched longer and longer until the only sounds were our footsteps crunching against the dirt and leaves. Then, slowly, the humming returned. It was the same song Daniel always hummed, some tune from a video game soundtrack he liked, but the notes were wrong, out of order, like someone trying to remember how it went, humming fragments, repeating certain tones too often. My chest tightened, my throat went dry, and that's when I realized something worse than the humming. It wasn't making any sound when it stepped. I froze. My boots crunched the leaves, snapped the twigs. But when Daniel moved, nothing. The ground didn't react. No crunch, no snap, no shift of dirt. It was like it was floating just above the forest floor. I slowed down a little, creating distance. My hand brushed against a low branch, and I broke it off without thinking. Something solid in my hand, even if it wouldn't help much. That's when my phone buzzed again. I stopped dead and pulled it out. Another photo. My stomach lurched. It was me, taken from behind, standing exactly where I was now, branch in hand, shoulders stiff, staring ahead. My hands shook so hard I nearly dropped the phone. Whoever, or whatever, was taking these pictures wasn't far. It was close enough to catch me in real time. And then, without turning around, I heard it. A breath, just behind me. "Hey man," the thing ahead said in that broken Daniel voice. "Why'd you stop?" I spun around, stick raised, heart pounding out of my chest. There, less than 10 feet away, stood Daniel. The real Daniel. His chest heaving, eyes wide, dirt smeared across his face like he'd been crawling through the underbrush. "Don't move," he hissed. "That's not me." I whipped my head back forward. The other Daniel, the one I had been walking with, was still smiling, standing perfectly still, watching me with eyes that didn't blink. My legs nearly gave out. I wanted to run, but my feet felt rooted to the dirt. The thing that had been walking as Daniel didn't move. It just stood there, smiling, head tilting slightly as if studying me, learning me. The real Daniel crouched beside me, whispering. It copies people. It watches. It waits. If you move wrong, a twig snapped somewhere behind us. Both of us froze. The thing ahead twitched. Its smile widened, impossibly. Its head jerked like a marionette controlled by invisible strings. I could feel my stomach twist. Something about it. It wasn't just mimicking Daniel. It was perfectly him. Every scar, every freckle, even the limp I remembered from football. But the eyes were wrong. Too black. Like deep pits sucking in the light. Daniel shook his head. "We can't stay here. We have to move carefully. It'll follow." I nodded, gripping the stick tighter, feeling the bark dig into my palms. Together, we edged backward, slowly, trying not to draw attention. The thing didn't chase. It didn't move at all. It just watched. Then, I heard it, the hum again. That broken tune, slightly distorted, slightly off, but closer now. Around us, not from the thing itself, but from the forest. Every shadow, every tree seemed to pulse with it. The real Daniel whispered, "It learns, it adapts. If it knows you're afraid, It'll use that. Don't let it know you're scared. I forced myself to breathe steadily, but my body screamed at me to bolt. Every instinct I had screamed it was already too late. Suddenly, the thing stepped forward. Just a single step. The ground didn't react. The leaves didn't crunch. But somehow we felt it. The air around us thickened, like a physical weight pressing down on our shoulders. "Run!" Daniel hissed, grabbing my arm. I took off, moving faster than I thought possible, adrenaline burning through me. The woods twisted around us, shadows stretching unnaturally, trees appearing closer or farther depending on which way I glanced. I dared to glance back. The thing was running too, but not like a person. Its movements were fluid, unnatural, like liquid black weaving through the forest. And that smile, it stayed. Every step, the same horrifying grin. Branches scratched my face, roots tripped my feet, but we pushed on. Daniel shouted directions, trying to guide me to a smaller trail he remembered from last summer's hike. I clung to him, ignoring the wet tears of blood or sap that had scratched my skin. Then I tripped. The stick flew from my hands. My hands hit the ground hard. Pain shot up my wrist. I looked up. It was gone. The thing wasn't ahead. It wasn't behind. It wasn't on either side. Silence fell. I swallowed hard, trying to calm my ragged breathing. Where did it go?" I whispered. Daniel didn't answer. He just grabbed my arm and pulled me forward faster than I thought possible. The woods had changed. Trails we knew didn't exist anymore, replaced by darkness, twisting paths, and shadows that seemed to lean toward us. And then I heard it. Behind us. The broken hum, distorted and wrong, closer than ever. And in the distance, a voice, not Daniel's, calling my name. It sounded happy. We didn't stop running. Every instinct screamed to just get out of the forest, but the paths were wrong. Trees twisted where they shouldn't have. Shadows moved against the natural angle of light, and the humming followed us, echoing through the branches like 1,000 whispers. Daniel whispered urgently, "It's learning. It knows we're scared now." I stumbled again, grabbing his arm to steady myself. How do we stop it?" He shook his head. "You can't. You just survive. Don't look at it. Don't think about it. Move." And then, a sound I'll never forget. A snap of a branch, close, too close. My heart jumped into my throat. I glanced over my shoulder. It was there, not pretending this time. Not the Daniel copy we'd seen before. This was something else. It was tall, impossibly thin, with elongated limbs that bent at angles no human should bend. Its skin shimmered like wet black tar under the dim light. And the eyes, two hollow voids that seemed to suck in everything around them. It raised one claw-like hand slowly, deliberately, and then a sound. Not a voice, not a hum, a laugh. A wet, guttural, joyful laugh that carried through the woods and made my stomach twist. I wanted to scream. I wanted to fight. I couldn't. My legs moved on their own, dragging me forward. Daniel shouted, "This way," and veered off a faint trail I hadn't noticed before. We crashed through brush, branches whipping our faces, roots tripping our feet. Behind us, the thing moved like liquid shadow, flowing through the forest without touching a single leaf or stone, yet every branch in its path bent unnaturally, warped, like it was flexing the woods to itself. I stumbled into a clearing. My lungs burned. Daniel grabbed my hand, and pulled me toward an abandoned cabin half hidden behind trees. Its roof sagged, paint peeling, windows cracked. "Hide in there," he hissed. We ducked inside. The air was thick with dust and rot, the kind that makes your throat itch and your eyes water. I pressed my back against the wall, trying to calm my trembling hands. Outside, the forest shifted. Shadows pooled against the windows. Then, slowly, impossibly, the thing appeared. Not through the door, not through the walls, just there, in the center of the clearing, watching us. It didn't move like a normal creature. It stretched, reaching, flowing, its grin wider than I thought possible. The hollow eyes seemed to bore into my soul. Daniel whispered, voice shaking, "It knows we're here. It knows where we are. And it can imitate anyone it wants." I swallowed hard, my stomach curling. "We can't leave." He shook his head. "Not yet. Not while it's learning. We wait. We hide. And hope." The thing tilted its head, and for a brief, horrifying second, it smiled at us like a predator enjoying its game. Then it melted into the shadows, leaving the clearing silent again, except for the faint, distorted hum echoing through the trees and the faint crunch of leaves moving somewhere out there. We stayed in that cabin for what felt like hours, maybe longer. The shadows outside shifted constantly, twisting in ways that made no sense. Every now and then, a faint hum would rise and fall, like the forest itself was breathing. I kept glancing at Daniel. His hands were shaking, and he kept muttering things under his breath. It's patient, it watches, it waits. I didn't want to ask the obvious question, how do we get out? Then we heard it. The door creaked. I whipped around, heart pounding, but the cabin was empty. No footsteps, no movement, just the faint echo of a laugh. A laugh that sounded just like Daniel. I spun toward him. His face was pale, sweat dripping down his temple. "It's outside," he whispered. "It knows we're inside, and it can copy anyone." A cold dread wrapped around my chest. I realized something I hadn't fully understood before. This thing didn't just imitate. It learned. It studied people, remembered their faces, their voices, their mannerisms. It didn't need to attack to scare you. It could make you doubt reality, make you question what was real and what wasn't. The humming grew louder. Then footsteps. Not heavy, not human, but deliberate. Slow. Coming from the back of the cabin. Daniel grabbed my arm. "Stay quiet. Don't move." The shadows in the corner of the room shifted, stretching unnaturally. My skin crawled. And then the thing stepped into the doorway. Not as Daniel. Not as anyone we knew yet. Just a tall, black silhouette, grinning wide enough to shatter your sanity. But then, in a blink, it shifted. Its shape blurred. Arms stretched and twisted, and before my eyes, it transformed. It was Daniel, but not quite. His eyes were hollow, his smile too wide, and the small scars on his face were wrong, different. "You shouldn't have come here," it said in his voice. I froze. Every muscle in my body screamed at me to run, to fight, to do anything. But Daniel grabbed my arm again, pulling me to the side. It's hard to explain what happened next. The cabin seemed to bend. The walls warped. The floor creaked as if alive. The thing moved like liquid shadow, flowing around us, but never touching. It laughed, or maybe my mind imagined it laughing, and in that sound was every fear I'd ever felt compressed into a single moment. Then, the real Daniel whispered, "We have to leave. Now, don't look at it." I obeyed. Together, we bolted toward a small side window he'd spotted. The thing moved after us, but not like a predator chasing prey. It flowed, bending, twisting, always matching our speed, always studying, always learning. We crashed out of the window into a dense part of the forest. The cold air hit my face like a slap, but we didn't stop. Branches tore at our clothes, roots caught our feet, but we pushed on, sprinting until the sounds behind us faded. Finally, we collapsed behind a fallen tree, gasping for air. I dared to glance back. The clearing was empty, silent, too silent. Daniel turned to me, face pale, eyes wide. "It's out there, watching, learning. It can be anyone. Anyone we've ever known, or anyone we ever will know. We can't go home. Not yet. Not while it's out there." I shivered, the forest suddenly feeling alive with eyes I couldn't see. The thing had followed us into my mind, into my fear, and I realized something terrifying. This wasn't just a monster of the woods. This was a predator of reality itself, and it was patient. We stayed huddled behind the fallen tree, the wind rustling through the branches, carrying faint echoes of the humming. Every sound made me jump. The snap of a twig, the brush of leaves, the distant caw of a crow. But the thing didn't make any ordinary sounds. It never did. Daniel whispered, "We have to move. It's only waiting until we get comfortable. It wants to make us forget, to let our guard down." I nodded, gripping a jagged branch I'd picked up. My hands were trembling so badly it was hard to hold it steady. The woods stretched in every direction, dark and endless. Every tree looked like it could hide the thing, every shadow like it could leap out and wear Daniel's face. We moved cautiously, sticking to a path Daniel claimed he remembered from last summer. I could feel it, watching, learning, adapting. The hairs on the back of my neck were standing straight. My heart pounded so hard I thought it would burst through my chest. Then it happened. A voice called my name. Clear, calm, Daniel's voice. But it came from behind a tree to our left. I froze. My stomach sank. My hands gripped the stick so tight my knuckles went white. The real Daniel grabbed my arm, shaking his head. "Don't look," but I did. The thing stepped out slowly from the shadows. Its grin was impossibly wide, its eyes hollow and empty. But it wasn't fully Daniel. It was him, twisted, wrong in all the subtle ways I'd noticed before. Its movements were liquid, unnatural. Every step was silent. It raised a hand, and my stomach turned. I could see the outline of my own face flicker across its shadow, as if it were testing me, learning me. Daniel whispered urgently, "We have to split. It won't chase both of us at once if we separate." I hesitated. My mind screamed that I couldn't leave him, but the real Daniel shoved me forward. "Go? Run." I bolted into a dense thicket, branches tearing at my clothes, roots tripping me, but I didn't stop. I could hear it behind me, shifting, flowing, laughing softly, Daniel's voice twisted and wrong. Every second felt like eternity, my lungs burning, my legs numb. And then I saw it. A small clearing up ahead, faint light filtering through the trees. Safety, maybe, or a trap. I didn't care. I ran straight for it. I made it to the edge of the forest, the sounds of the creature fading as I crossed into the open field near the road. My phone buzzed in my pocket. I pulled it out, hands shaking. A single photo. It was Daniel, sitting on the forest floor, eyes wide, mouth open in a silent scream. And behind him, a shadow, its grin wider than humanly possible, leaning close, arms stretching toward him like it could envelop him entirely. I dropped the phone. My knees buckled. I ran to my car, fumbling with the keys. Engine started. I didn't look back. That night, I called every friend I could think of, checking names, checking locations. No one had seen him leave the woods. No one had heard a thing. And now, even days later, every time I see someone who looks like Daniel, just a fleeting glance in a crowd, a shadow in my peripheral vision, I feel it. Waiting, learning, patient. I don't know how long it's been out there, or how many people it has copied, but I know one thing. It's still in the woods, and it's waiting for the next person to follow, to trust, to think they're safe. Because it doesn't just take people, it becomes them. And if it learns enough, it can become anyone.